Sister announced my miscarriage at her wedding. At least now you can be the fun aunt. The champagne flute slipped from my hand, shattering against the marble floor in 1,000 glittering pieces. The sound should have stopped the room, but nobody noticed. They were too busy laughing at my sister's toast, raising their glasses high while my world collapsed into those sparkling shards at my feet. Everyone, raise your glasses. Veronica stood at the head table, her wedding dress catching the light like fresh snow, her smile radiant with a cruelty only I could fully recognize. I want to make a special toast to my sister Julia. She finally lost the baby last week, so now she can be the fun aunt instead of a boring mom. No more excuses to skip girls' nights. The laughter hit me like a physical blow. 300 guests, clinking glasses to the death of my daughter. My mother actually stood up, applauding. Best news we've had all month, she called out. Julia's always been better at careers than motherhood anyway. My father raised his scotch. To Veronica and Daniel, and to Julia finally being free to focus on what matters. The room spun. 7 days. It had been 7 days since I held Sophia for the first and last time, her perfect tiny fingers wrapped around mine for exactly 43 minutes before her heart stopped. 7 days of hell that I'd survived only by focusing on this wedding, on being there for my sister despite everything. And she'd turned my daughter's death into a punchline. I stood frozen, aware of every eye on me, waiting for me to laugh along like I always did when Veronica turned my pain into entertainment. But this time, I couldn't. I wouldn't. That's when I saw him, Daniel, Veronica's new husband. His face had gone completely white, his champagne glass trembling in his hand. He wasn't laughing. He was staring at me with a look of absolute horror, and then his eyes moved to the place card in front of me. Julia Harrison, he said, his voice cutting through the laughter. You're Dr. Julia Harrison. The room quieted slightly. Veronica giggled, swaying slightly from champagne. That's my big sister. Though doctor is a stretch, she does research at some hospital lab. Boring stuff with charts and ethics or whatever. Daniel set down his glass very slowly. Dr. Julia Harrison, chair of the Medical Ethics Board at Presbyterian General? The Dr. Harrison who wrote the National Guidelines on Compassionate Care. The silence spread like spilled wine across white linen. The same Dr. Harrison, he continued, his voice rising, whose husband is Marcus Harrison, chief of surgery at Mount Sinai. I found my voice, though it came out hollow. Yes. Daniel turned to look at his new wife, and in that moment, I saw the exact second their marriage began to crumble. The baby you're toasting about, that was Dr. Harrison's daughter? The one who lived for 43 minutes. Danny, you're being dramatic, Veronica laughed, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. It's not like it was a real baby. She was born at 22 weeks. That's barely viable. The sound Daniel made was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. My sister was born at 22 weeks. She lived. She's a lawyer now. The reception hall, which moments ago had rung with laughter at my expense, fell into the kind of silence that precedes disaster. Daniel wasn't done. You told me, he said to Veronica, his voice deadly quiet but carrying to every corner of the room, that your sister had an abortion. That she chose her career over motherhood. You said that's why we weren't inviting her husband, because he wanted the baby and she didn't. My mother's champagne glass hit the floor. You said, Daniel continued, now addressing the room but still staring at his bride, that Julia was too selfish to be a mother. That the family was relieved when she made the right choice. Danny, Veronica started. My daughter's name was Sophia, I said, my voice stronger now. She was born at 22 weeks after I developed severe preeclampsia. She lived for 43 minutes. I held her the entire time. My husband Marcus couldn't be here tonight because is still not able to talk about her without breaking down. I looked directly at my parents. I begged you to come to the hospital. You said it wasn't worth the drive for a baby that wouldn't survive. You said I should focus on Veronica's wedding planning instead. My father had the grace to look down. My mother's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But the real cruelty, I continued, is that Veronica knew. She knew because she was there when I got the call from the hospital. She heard me collapse. She saw Marcus carry me to the car. And she actually asked, if we could schedule the delivery around her bachelorette party. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Veronica's college friends, the ones who'd laughed the loudest, were backing away from the head table. Daniel pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Dr. Harrison, what's your husband's number? He should know what happened here tonight. No need, a voice said from the entrance. Marcus stood in the doorway, still in his surgical scrubs. 6'4", exhausted, and absolutely lethal in his controlled fury. I was watching the live stream. Veronica insisted on streaming the reception for the guests who couldn't make it. Imagine my surprise when I heard my daughter's death used as a toast. He walked through the crowd, which parted like the Red Sea. When he reached me, he wrapped his arms around me, and I finally let myself cry. "Mr. and Mrs. Harrison," Daniel said formally, his voice breaking. "I am so deeply sorry. I had no idea. If I had known," he turned to Veronica, "if I had known who you really were, this wedding would never have happened." "Daniel," Veronica shrieked. "You're overreacting. It was just a joke." "A joke?" Daniel's voice cracked. "You joked about a baby's death? At our wedding?" That's when Veronica's maid of honor, Brittany, suddenly spoke up. "Oh my God. You're that Dr. Harrison? The one who's testifying before Congress next week about maternal mortality rates." I nodded, too drained to speak. "The one whose research on preeclampsia prevention has saved thousands of lives." Brittany continued, her voice rising. "The one who's literally revolutionizing maternal fetal medicine." "That's my wife," Marcus said quietly, his arms still around me. "The woman who, 7 days after losing our daughter, is standing here because she promised she'd be at her sister's wedding, even though that sister hasn't visited her once in the hospital during her high-risk pregnancy. Even though that sister told everyone Julia was getting cosmetic surgery when she was actually on bed rest trying to save our baby." The dominoes started falling fast. Veronica's boss from the PR firm stood up, disgust written across her face. "I think I've seen enough. Veronica, we need to discuss your future with the company. This is not the kind of values we represent." The photographer lowered his camera. "I'm done. I don't document cruelty." The band began packing up their instruments. "Wait!" Veronica screamed. "You can't all leave. This is MY Day." "No," Daniel said quietly, pulling off his wedding ring. "This was the day you showed me who you really are." My parents finally tried to intervene. "Now, everyone calm down," my father blustered. "Julia's always been oversensitive." "Oversensitive?" Marcus stepped forward, and my father actually backed up. "Your daughter lost a baby 7 days ago. Instead of support, she got mockery. Instead of compassion, she got a toast celebrating her loss." "We didn't know the baby meant that much to her," my mother said weakly. "Every baby means that much to their mother," Daniel said quietly. "My mother still cries on my sister's birthday, remembering those 3 months in the NICU, fighting for every breath. And she survived. Sophia didn't, and you're celebrating that." The exodus began in earnest. Guests filed out, many stopping to offer condolences to me, apologies, expressions of horror at what they'd participated in. Within 20 minutes, the glittering reception hall was nearly empty. Veronica stood in her wedding dress, surrounded by overturned chairs and abandoned champagne glasses, mascara streaming down her face. "This isn't Faye. Julia ruins everything. She couldn't even let me have one perfect day." "Perfect." I finally found my voice again. "You announced my daughter's death like it was a lottery win. You told people I had an abortion when I held her as she died. You turned the worst moment of my life into wedding entertainment. It's not my fault you couldn't carry a baby properly," she screamed. The slap came from an unexpected source, our mother. "Enough," Mom said, her hand shaking. "My God, Veronica, what have you become? Or what have I let you become?" The aftermath was swift and brutal. The wedding video went viral, but not in the way Veronica had hoped. Bride toasts sister's miscarriage became a cautionary tale across social media. Veronica's PR firm fired her within 48 hours. Daniel filed for annulment, citing fraud. She had lied about fundamental aspects of her character and family situation. But the real consequences came from an unexpected source. The president of Presbyterian General, where I worked, was also president of the medical board that licensed the fertility clinic where Veronica had been receiving treatments. She'd been trying to get pregnant for 2 years, documenting every step on social media, turning it into content. "I'm afraid," he told me privately, "that someone who publicly celebrates infant death probably shouldn't be approved for fertility treatments. The psychological evaluation alone would be concerning." Veronica's fertility journey, the one she'd monetized through sponsorships and partnerships, ended with a single email denying her continuation in the program. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman who celebrated her sister's miscarriage was now unable to continue her own attempts at motherhood. My parents attempted reconciliation, slowly, painfully. Family therapy revealed years of preferential treatment, of Veronica's cruelties being dismissed as personality while my achievements were minimized. It would take years to heal, if ever. But the unexpected gift came from Daniel. 3 months after the wedding disaster, he reached out. His sister, the one born at 22 weeks, was starting a foundation for preeclampsia research. Would I consider being on the board? That's how I met Sarah, the miracle baby who survived what Sophia couldn't. She was 28, brilliant and fierce. At our first meeting, she hugged me and whispered, "Every baby born at 22 weeks who survives carries the hope of the ones who didn't. I'll help you carry Sophia's hope." The Foundation's first grant went to developing a new preeclampsia treatment protocol. We named it the Sophia Protocol. Veronica still posts on social media, to a much diminished audience. She doesn't mention me anymore. She doesn't mention the wedding. She definitely doesn't mention babies. But every year on Sophia's birthday, because she had a birthday, those 43 minutes count, I receive a message from Daniel. Just 3 words, she mattered. Always. And from Sarah, who became an unexpected friend, her 43 minutes changed medicine. We're saving babies because of what you learned from losing her. The wedding toast that was meant to diminish my grief became the moment that revealed the truth. Some people celebrate others' pain because they can't bear their own emptiness. Veronica got her viral moment, her unforgettable wedding. Just not the way she planned. As for me, I learned that grief shared with cruelty becomes testimony. That a mother's love doesn't diminish because it's measured in minutes instead of years. And that sometimes, the worst moments of our lives become the catalyst for our greatest purpose. Sophia lived for 43 minutes. But her legacy, through the research, the foundation, the protocols that bear her name, will last forever. That's more than Veronica's marriage managed. And infinitely more valuable than any wedding toast.